It is 7 o'clock, and Mayor Alt will not be here tonight. He has a pressing commitment, and if you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is approval, a motion for the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we pass the minutes of June 18. All those in favor use the sign of ayes.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion is carried. We will now have asked for a motion and a second for the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. All those in favor use the sign of aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion is carried. We will now have a resolution from Gene Minner, Director of Planning.
Terry Thomas is stepping in for Gene. Gene has a pressing commitment with the hurricane.
And we're glad to have you.
Okay, there's two resolutions. Resolution R7 2014.
I'm going to pull the mic up.
And I might add that the resolution have no financial impact on the town as we are put in a position where we can approve to be a benefit to the town. Thank you.
The R7 resolution is the Strategic Demolition and Smart Growth Impact Fund program, which is part of the state's Plan Maryland strategy to accelerate economic revitalization of sustainable communities. The program's purpose is to provide grants and loans to local governments and nonprofits working with private entities to fund capital costs for redevelopment opportunities in the state's sustainable communities. Elkton is requesting $120,000 to assist Minnie Haynes Irish Pub and Restaurant with their deck expansion, which will create jobs and redevelop an underutilized site. And Lewis told me there were changes made to Resolution R7 and that I need to read that one. A resolution of the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Elkton to approve the application and financing for a Strategic Demolition and Smart Growth Impact Fund project in the Town of Elkton, Maryland, specifically for the Minnie Haynes Irish Pub and Restaurant deck dining expansion. The project is to be funded by the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development or through other departments or agencies of the state of Maryland. Whereas the Town of Elkton recognizes that there is a significant need for reinvestment and revitalization in the Town of Elkton, and whereas the owners of Minnie Haynes Irish Pub and Restaurant, 101 West Main Street, Elkton, are planning for the expansion of their business premises to include a deck for outside dining, and whereas the department, through the Strategic Demolition and Smart Growth Impact Fund, or through other programs of the department or in cooperation with other state departments or agencies, may provide some or all of the funding for the project financing, to make the project financially feasible. And whereas the project is located within a designated priority funding area under Section 57B02 of the Smart Growth Act, is located within a sustainable community as identified in the Sustainable Communities Act of 2010, and the project will conform to the Town of Elkton zoning regulations. And whereas the applicable law and regulations require approval of the project and the project financing by the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Elkton. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Commissioners of the Town of Elkton hereby 1. Endorse the project, and 2. Approve the request for financial assistance in the form of a grant or loan up to the amount of $120,000. Be it further resolved that Mayor Robert J. Alt is hereby authorized to execute documents and take any action necessary to carry out the intent of this resolution. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution is to be sent to the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development.
So in short, you're saying that we're seeking $120,000 to help Minahan with expansion?
Yes.
Okay. Did any commissioners have any conversation, discussion?
I had a conversation earlier, just because I needed to clear up a few things, and I'm sure that there's some people here wanting to know about the $120,000. That rest assured that it's not a loan that we have to pay, or it's not a loan at all. It's a grant through the government, the state. and unfortunately, the way it works is that we're just the mediator of money.
Right.
Yes.
To funnel it there. It doesn't mean that they get $120,000. It just means that we apply for the maximum amount available to this particular type of development for the town to enhance the town. If there's any, I don't know if you're allowed to ask the public if they have any questions before we vote. Are we allowed to do that?
I will. Is there
Thank
any
you.
questions from the audience in reference to the $120,000? Yes, sir.
State your name.
My name's Anthony Bernard of 4 Bonnie Marie Court, Elkton, Maryland. I understand it's a grant from the state. Of course, the state confiscates that from somebody throughout the state.
Sure.
Is that a loan that's going to be paid back with interest so that possibly in the future our tax liabilities aren't going to be quite so hard on us?
My understanding is no. Okay, it's not, and the state collects money via all of our taxes, and then it has designated different areas in different towns throughout Maryland that different businesses can apply for these grants, but they have to do it through the town to get that. So anybody on Main Street or the designated area is allowed to apply for these things through us.
And the governor allocates so much money in his budget for these types of grants. This year, I believe there was, and don't hold me exact, about $6.1 million available to municipalities for grants such as this.
Can I make a further comment?
Yes, you may.
I mean, it's really nice for the owners of that business. They're going to benefit the most from a collective of people that are financing that project. I don't see how that is a fair exchange to the people of Maryland.
Many businesses downtown have tapped into the community legacy and grants that are right here. A lot of the facade improvements downtown came from this same pot of money.
And essentially, the state of Maryland is offering that money, so there's a lot of municipalities tapping into it. So Elkton is doing the same thing because it has a project that it wants to enhance. But technically, in summary, there's no financial impact on the town of Elkton. Is there a motion to approve?
Make motion that we approve.
Second.
Second?
It's been properly moved and second that resolution R72014, strategic demolition and smart growth, Pack-in Fund grant. All those in favor, use a sign of aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion is carried. We will now have R8 resolution.
Okay. The R8 resolution is the Community Legacy Program of the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development and provides local governments and community development organizations with funding for essential projects aimed at strengthening communities through activities such as business retention, expansion, and attraction initiatives, encouraging home ownership and commercial revitalization. Elkton is requesting $125,000 of Community Legacy Grant funds to fund parking lot improvements, including lighting and landscaping, bicycle racks, and electric vehicle charging stations at the public parking lot on 117 to 119 West Main Street. This project builds on the improvements completed and planned on the adjacent Minnie Haynes Irish Pub and Restaurant. And it's, R8 is as it was in your packets. Did you need it to be read?
Any comments, discussion from any of the sitting board?
I think this is grant money again.
Yes. The audience? Motion?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution R8-2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we pass resolution R82014, Community Legacy Grant Application. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion is carried. Town Administrator's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The town has released a bid request for patchwork throughout the town prepared by the Director of Public Works. And we received the bids from Meadows Construction Incorporated and Sam's Construction Limited Liability Corporation. And I will read the bids. bonds, incentive surety. Who they submitted. Usually it's in the front.
I agree. I agree.
The bid submitted by Meadows Construction Incorporated is for $238,700. Repeating that, Meadows bids $238,700 to complete all the work as outlined in the specifications. All work must be completed within 30 days and must commence 10 days from the notice to proceed. Second bid is from Sam's Construction LLC. Sam's Construction LLC bids $222,400. Sam's Construction bids $222,400. I would ask the board to make a tentative award to Meadows Construction. I'm sorry. What's the other one? Sam's to complete the work. We'll check the references and everything, but if it's acceptable, then we'll proceed to issue a notice of award to Sam's Construction LLC as the low bidder for this project.
I have one quick question. It's been brought to my attention that these are typically the two that bid on it the most. Is it because of, why is that?
I'm sorry?
That's really the question. Go ahead.
Why are there not more bidders, I guess DJ
We
wants to know.
released, the bid was advertised in the Cecil Wig and put on our website. A lot of times contractors, I don't know how many attended pre-bid meeting.
Yeah, you had 4 people picking up.
Okay, 4 people picked them up, but only 2 submitted. A lot of times it has to do with how busy they are. Contractors doing road work in the summertime may be too busy to bid the project, particularly since it must be started within 10 days of notice to proceed and must be completed in 30 days. That might not meet some bidders' requirements in terms of, or conflicts with other jobs.
Okay.
Is your agenda done?
Yeah, I had the bid opening, and that's, we need to get started on that project.
We'll start up here, DJ. We'll start with you with your book. You don't have a book tonight? Kidding.
Sorry about this one. Use all of these papers?
No.
What book are you talking about?
He's not with you.
He said, what book you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Talking about Commissioner's report?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I know.
My
Yeah.
book. Ah, I get it now. My book. No, it's not going to be as long as it
It's
was
okay.
last time.
Oh, we gotta vote on this, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if we don't, we need a vote in order to proceed with a notice to the contractor.
For the road restoration, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, use the sign of aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion to carry. Mary Jo, DJ asked if you would start the Commissioner's report.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You gotta eliminate.
Are we on old business? Is that what you, are we?
We'll start with old business.
Okay. Old business, I was not at the last meeting, but after reviewing the video, I did want to make a remark. I don't know who it was because they just said something regarding the closed meetings. We do have a form here for closed meetings and what we can close a meeting for and why. It is from the state of Maryland, so if anyone ever would like to see a copy, we have them here. So I did just want to make that remark. Also, the alerts that were put out on our, I believe it was said at the, I don't know if it was the workshop or the meeting, but I subscribed the other day for the alerts on the Town of Elkton website. Very simple, go to left-hand side and just sign up and subscribe, and I received 3 today. So that was very nice. I want to thank Janie for doing that. And also, you know, a lot of things are new and things are getting said, and new people who I love are coming to our meetings, which is great, because after reviewing some of the videos, we're only getting about 30-some people viewing them. So it's very nice to see all of you here. But, you know, I carry it with me, and I want to just make this. This is our charter and our code book, and this is what we go by. So I have, as you can see, tons of Post-its and things, but, you know, if there's a question or something, we need to refer to this first and then move forward, and if something needs to be changed, this is where we have to change it. So I know someone made a remark about looking through the charter again, and I'm very happy we're going to do that. Do you want me to go to new business?
No, old business early.
Okay.
Just that we're still looking at, well, we just had a work session, and we had a conversation about the rec or community center. We're still looking into some options, and we'll probably give some report back on our probably our next meeting, because we're still seeking some ideas right now around the recreation center.
As far as old business, Earl, I want to thank you, because now we can hear Louis George in the mic, and you have fixed it so that not only can we hear it, but the audience can hear Louis as well, so that's good.
Thank you.
I will have to work with the air conditioner. I'll work on that next with the humming, because not the mics.
Yeah, old business. Quickly on the water tower, the water was paid for to refill it. Does that money go to the water fund?
There's no money paid. The contractor's price, what was it? I don't have it in front of me, includes that component. In other words, when he bids the project, for example, what was it?
It was 400 and some, yeah.
400 and some thousand. That part, that water that he fills that tower with, that's part of that price. Sort of like you paid for the water, paid for the paint, paid for all the metal, the repairs, the hatches, the vents, everything is in that price.
The lettering and stuff. Should we take that, can we as a town take part of that money and push it over to the water fund though, as far as like you itemize everything? If you build a pergola, you're going to have nails, you're going to have the wood, you're going to have stain. Everything is broken down to what it is. So this way the money is accounted for into the water fund. And if it's no big deal, it's no big deal. I'm just trying to keep track of if it goes, if somebody's paying for the water, then that money should go to the water fund, not be put into the general fund.
Well, there was no payment for the water. The payment for the contract was paid out of the water fund.
The entire contract is. One of the things that you should
There was
note,
no purchase of water.
one of the things you should note is the final payment, payment number 6 of the contractor is shy $4,200
Some odd dollars.
bucks, because when they were moving their man lift, which is a very large piece of equipment, from the site, they actually hit a fire hydrant coming out. The fire hydrant is used to drain the tower. Our Public Works replaced that fire hydrant, and we sent them a bill for all labor and materials in the amount of $4,200 and change, and we deducted that from their final contract price payment, so we get reimbursement for that. All the other payments have been made for all the work, labor, and materials.
And for the water lost out of the hydrant? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Ironically, there wasn't any water in the tower when they hit the hydrant.
All right. But moving forward, if they're paying for water, shouldn't that money just go back into the water fund though? I mean, again, when you build a project, I mean, they had to give us a list of the way what is being paid. I mean, we had to come back and we had to pay 16 grand or something for a ladder inside. There was things that we had to pay for. So again,
Yeah,
a
those
large
are the-
amount of money that water usage that should be part of that bill should be put back to the water fund. I mean, if I'm wrong here, go ahead and let me know.
The town received no funds for the purchase of water during that project.
Now, we're going to have to get you a mic, Steve, now.
Okay.
Because
The town did not receive any funds for the use or purchase of water during the course of that project. The town paid K&K Painting to complete the project.
Who paid for the water to go into the tower?
The contractor. They don't pay us, it's part of their total cost. It's like the difference, the reason the ladder, the cathodic protection, and was there another change order? The lettering. those are extras. In other words, those were things that weren't incorporated in the original specifications. However, the water to fill the tower and to they superchlorinate it for disinfection and to drain it and then fill it back again. Well, the amount of water that went into that tower, the roughly 400,000 gallons, 350, whatever, that is incorporated as part of their specification to pay for it. So when they submit a contract price that we accept for 400,000, that's part of that cost. What wasn't part of that cost was the cathodic protection.
I understand that.
And the lettering. That was extra as change orders that were approved. Fortunately, those change orders were all approved by the Maryland Department of the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. So 75% of each one of those change orders was paid for under that grant.
And again, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. When a vehicle is delivered, I put gas in it. I fill the gas tank up, but that gas is set over here on this side so I can see how much gas, and the money is allotted to there. Or pre-delivery inspection, everything is itemized. So even when somebody puts in a contract, do they not do an itemization to make sure that that money is then funneled over to the water fund? That's all I'm asking. I guess that's not the way that it's done. It's just one lump sum for $417,000.
Yeah, it's a lump sum.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who looks over the contracts?
The contract,
DPW?
all the technical provisions are provided by our engineer, but there are also a lot of the specifications are based on the inspection that's done by another party for the tower. For example, lead testing, we have to do that. And in this particular case, one of the reasons that caused the increased expense of that project was we had to provide a containment system, or the contractor had to supply a containment system, because when you blast paint off using a grit type of material, then that grit holds that lead paint in suspension, so to speak, and then it has to be removed by the contractor. Another example is all the grit material that's used and its disposal is part of that bid too.
Well,
so we don't pay any extra for that. All that and the dumpster that went back to Hartford Sanitation Services, all that was paid for.
Well, I know when most contractors, when they submit bids, they sit down and they break down what each individual thing is going to cost them, and then add a certain percentage as far as profit. Moving forward for the town, can we ask how much money that would be if it's going to be 350,000 gallons? Then that money, part of the bill, if they have to refill it, they have to pay for it, then that money's going to get pushed over to the water fund. Am I wrong? Okay. We can sit.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, fair enough.
All I know is that when we put a specification in, the volume of the tank, which is 400,000 for the Bell Hill Tower, one of the requirements that contractor has is to fill that with superchlorinated water, so it's disinfected before it's put and released into the distribution system. That's his requirement. When we ask for a bid, that's one of the prices he has to pay. So he's paid for it up front. If we didn't require that, and he didn't include it in his bid, but subsequently we said, you're going to have to fill this up, then, he's going to have to pay for it then, But in this case, it's part of that, along with the other materials. Sort of like all the materials that went into that project gets paid for by the contractor on the bid price.
Sure, I understand the water. We can sit down next week if you don't mind, and you can explain it to me further, I guess. The website, I also signed up for it, the alerts, and I need to tell everybody, please go on to Elkton's website, left-hand side, maybe 4 inches down on the left-hand side. It's actually it took a while for me to find it. It's white, and it says subscribe to alerts. Please, and pass it around your neighborhoods. Tell your next door neighbor. I mean, we need to get this out. It's going to eventually save the town money, and we can keep track of what's going on. I would like somehow, if we could get a hold of HOA presidents. I said something to my HOA. Also, property management companies, maybe the rental companies that are around here. And then this way they can, when they send out their quarterly thing, something like that, they can put something in there. I don't know what kind of verbiage we would use, but if we have a liaison that coordinates all that, I think would be great. Old business also, Gary had brought up about the contract with Mr. Schneider. And
Bruce Snyder.
yes, and I had called in because I had questions. I got a copy of the contract also, and I had a lot of questions, of course. And it was suggested to me that I bring it up and that we invite the parties that be to a workshop and or a meeting, because there was things in there in the contract that I saw about property that we could use for natural trails. There's supposed to be a water tower. There's a lot of things going on there.
I think the parties have met with a couple of the department heads, because I think they're trying to refine and define the use of the property, because things have been changed. And correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, am I right about that? The other party has met with department heads back in planning.
I'll admit I dozed.
Excuse me?
Which project are you
Oh,
talking
the
about?
Snyder.
The Snyder.
Oh, Bruce Schneider? Yeah, we just met with him
Okay.
last week.
Awesome.
And see, even though you brought up, it was brought up, I think the definition of the use of the property has been changed from when they put it in for some kind of a POD.
They're still moving forward with PUD. That's what our meeting with them last week was about. They were, if you remember when we adopted the zoning ordinance, Article 9 was missing from it for the PUD because we didn't want that holding back the whole zoning ordinance moving forward. And we're to a point now where I believe pretty soon you're going to be seeing the language for it.
Okay, I think that's what DJ is trying to
Yeah, so
get some understanding about where
yeah.
we're at with that.
So all of the land that we were to be using, or that was given to us, I think it was 124 acres, is
Under
a water
conservation
area.
easement.
Conservation, right?
Yeah.
We could use natural trails and stuff like that. And-
Unimproved.
Right,
Unimproved
right.
trails is the only
Absolutely.
thing that's
Normal
permitted
stuff.
there.
And I saw the addendum in '07, but I didn't see anything in there to where that isn't ours anymore.
Oh, it is.
No,
It's deeded fee simple to us.
yes,
Okay.
that the town still owns that.
Okay. And then as far as the big water tower that's supposed to be put up,
They have the right, they don't exercise the obligation for the tower or development of the well beyond its initial development until they have unappealable approval for 2,500
Correct.
units. And the 2,500 units is a component of the PUD that yet has to be resolved. So the
Okay.
agreement
Now I'm
went into
connecting the dots.
effect in 2006, and it's an old agreement, and it was a 20-year agreement, I think.
is there another agreement that wasn't sent to me then, more current?
No, that's it. The only thing that's different is there are amendments to that agreement, and they sent all the amendments, right?
Yeah,
All the amendments you should have. They shared in a cost for actual well development. And let me
Saw
clarify
that.
what a well development is. Well development isn't a well house with pumps. It's simply a pipe in the ground, so to speak, where a test is done to determine the amount of water that the state will authorize withdrawal. And we've been
Right.
through that process, and we actually have water appropriation permit. Matter of fact, I just had it renewed, so it's good for 2 more years. The permit will extend out a lot further than 2 years, but if we don't withdraw from it within a 2-year period, then you have to renew it, and it's been renewed once already.
Is there a limitation on how many times? I missed that. Sorry.
There's no limitation. The state gives it consideration each time, so they could say yes, or they could say no.
One of the questions that was brought up last time was, why are we just letting this sit and we're not doing, we really don't have any control of anything until it's been defined and moved forward by the parties. So if the stuff that you're looking through the contract and everything, the contract's there, but we as the board can't make a move any faster until everything's been defined and whether or not they move forward with their project. Does that make sense?
One of the things I'll comment on is the purpose of well number 4 was to provide water resources for the development of the property. Without that resource available to the developers, they cannot develop the property. So it's into their best interest ultimately to have that well, completed in order to service that community. It's not utilized for Kensington Courts or the other, because we have well number 1 and 3, and of course the interconnect to cover that, and well number 2R, which we're working on now, to cover the water for that area. Well number 4 was principally for Southside LLC properties.
And I do believe Mayor Alt met with them recently, so I think the discussion is going to start up again and probably come to a workshop with
Okay.
the property owners.
Yeah, there was 3 partners, I believe.
Right.
I don't know.
For old business, yes, sir.
New business, Mary Jo.
New business, I'd like to thank the chief is here and Dan, Public Works, for the Color Vibe run. The chief actually went around and went to businesses to check on it. We had over 1,300 people registered. It was a fantastic event for the town. And we actually submit to them the cost of the police and any public works that is overtime. I provided the volunteers. There was about 25 volunteers, so it was no cost at all. So it was a great event. I was contacted by USA Today magazine. They're going to be doing a story on Elkton and highlighting our fall festival. So I'm very excited about that, and I will let everyone know when it's out there. Michelle, I think I mentioned it, but the farmer's market, I'm so happy there's more people there. But the boxes are just getting out of control, and now if we do have a lot of rain, they're just going to start. If we could possibly do something about that. It was very busy tonight, by the way, the farmer's market. I hope everybody has a great 4th of July, and the fireworks are good. The rain, we don't get too much. And that's it for me.
I think the vendors, the guys at the farmer's market need to clean up behind themselves.
That's
They just
exactly
leave the
what I was
boxes out
talking
there
about,
because
yeah.
they're coming back another day.
Yeah.
Earl?
I guess I did slip one thing on the old business, so I'm going to say it's new business because it's I did have a conversation with the hospital, I guess the rover that drives through the safety guy through the hospital. Drives the gray little security.
Security.
And we talked a little bit about the parking meters last time, and I know that's a hot item, but he is probably one that's 24/7 that sees what's going on with the parking, the situation, and he said whatever we do as a board, he would not remove those meters because he already knows that he's been pushing people from certain businesses that he's aware of, that he knows that it would nothing do but to flood those vacant spots and they would stay unavailable all day long. That came from him personally. He said if you need him, he will come in and speak on behalf of that. So that's the only thing I have.
Only thing I have with new business, is Dan still here?
Yeah.
You have a purchasing agent at Public Works, perchance, and the reason why I say that, I stopped there on Saturday, and you actually have a man that inventories and issues equipment and gloves and all those other things. So I know that certainly is a help, and I guess that's the same thing Bob Litzenberg was talking about, basically having one person for the town of Elkton to do that same thing. So you do have that person, correct?
Yes.
And it works?
Yes.
And he has good inventory, and men have to come in there to sign up and get gloves and what have you. He took me to a little tour of his place for about 15 minutes, and I thought that was good because certainly I didn't know that existed down there.
Really?
And that way you can save money. The men don't have to be taking gloves that don't belong to them and tools and everything else.
The 2 keys, me and him, the other 2 to the office.
That's good. That's it.
Bob's got his hand up.
Yes, sir.
That's a warehouse, but that's not a purchasing agent.
No, I did not say that. I was just saying that they are synonymous in what the job does.
Okay.
Is that you have a person that's going to be responsible for the total equipment, let's say in the town of Elkton, anything that's
Purchasing.
Correct. Go ahead.
Color Vibe, I had a ton of friends in that, and they had a blast. It's definitely something that I've been talking about, things like that. It went off without a hitch. I'm glad everybody had a great time. I've had a couple questions. The gas tank on the intersection of, is there a gas tank that still exists underground at the intersection of Landing Lane and Route 40, right next to the Knights of Columbus? Do you know if there's
The old gas station?
Yes.
Is there a tank there?
Is there still a tank in there?
I don't know. I don't know. If it's an underground tank, it has to be registered with the state, so I'll find out if it's there.
And then isn't it supposed
Because
to
it
be?
was a station one time.
I was told that it was supposed to be inspected periodically. Is that true? And if not, has it been inspected? Or if it is, has it been inspected? If you could find those things out.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'll have to check with the state because all underground tanks have to be registered.
Right. Another question that was asked to me is, as far as DPW vehicles and any other vehicles, do we track them? The reason I ask that is on the routes, in my neighborhood, you have a grass clipping guy comes through after the street sweeper. They're a day apart. And this is going to sound ridiculous until I explain it, are they making all right-hand turns? And the reason I say right-hand turns is because it saves gas. UPS, FedEx, they all have the route that you're making right-hand turns. But also is time management and efficiency with our dump trucks. Do we put them on the police cars? Do we put them on anything? Was the question that was asked to me.
I could answer that. I know the UPS, probably FedEx, and all of those companies do. They have a very, very efficient operation in terms of tracking that.
Right.
So every driver that gets into a truck has a predestined route where they
Right.
drive to minimize the expense and the downtime of that driver to maximize the profitability of that company and that operation. The town does not have a GPS system on its equipment,
Okay.
or any of our equipment at this point in time.
Do they have a predetermined route?
Yes, they have a daily route. That's why when it comes to our waste pickup, they have a certain route they do every day. They've got 5 different routes in 5 different areas. They try to work together to minimize their downtime, so we work together to see what's what.
All right.
Yes.
And the last thing that I have is the pond. Just want to talk about that real quick because I've had a couple people call me, and then we got an email the other day about the pond concept, that it's going to cost us too much money. At this point in time, we haven't looked into the total amount of money that it's going to cost to combine the ponds. I still think it's a great idea. Talking to Ken Brenner the other day, all of us, it will add an extra week of water by doing that in case the Elk River becomes contaminated with something. He's asking us to spend $12,000 on 2 different valves to turn off the Elk Creek and turn on the ponds, which we're going to spend $12,000, and he's saying that as far as chemicals of cleaning the water and stuff, it's about $20,000 a year that we would save in chemicals. $8,000 right off the bat. Take that on out for a while. So I like the ideas. I know it's going to interrupt some fishing, but in the grand scheme of things, when we look at the town 25 years from now, is it going to better us? And I believe that it will. So if there's any other questions about that, please bring them up tonight. I don't know if those parties are here that sent me those questions, but if you are, please ask. And that's all I have for new business.
If I may,
Yes.
Mr. Van Reen, I want to add on to that. I did forget something. I did contact MDE and Army Corps of Engineer. I think I mentioned it when we had that workshop. I had the opportunity of being at that meeting when they were discussing all this. And I did check with Mayor Ault about setting up a meeting, but more of it's informative for the public to open it up, ask questions with all the parties that were here that day when they were saying, you know, what State Highway is in charge of, the Army Corps of Engineers, Maryland Department of Environment, all those parties, and open it up. And right now, tentatively, it will be the last Wednesday in September, but we're waiting to get all the parties together. So I did talk to Mayor Ault about it, and he said to go ahead and set it up, so I'm working on that.
Okay.
At this time, we do have two people who have signed up to speak. If there's any others that would like to speak after them, you certainly have the right to do so. And the first, we have Anthony Bernard. He's from 4 Bonnie Marie Court, Elkton, Maryland. Did you get that, Michelle? Okay.
She knows me well.
Okay, good. We're going to talk about
Good
it.
evening.
How you doing?
Just wanted to say thank you for all your efforts in getting some issues taken care of over at Villages of Walnut Hill. Potholes have been filled in and repaved. A couple of mountains of construction debris has been cleared away, seeded and strawed over. And, keep up the work that we've elected you to do. And actually, I like dropping in here unannounced, if you will, because some of the things that come up in the course of the meeting raises, some past red flags that I've forgotten about. I think the main issue that Commissioner Van Reenen is trying to bring up, when I was discussing with him before he was elected, I went and I Googled water and sewer bills throughout the country. And we are right up there with Boston, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And I don't understand how a tiny little town like Elkton, Maryland could have water and sewer bills as high as they are. I mean, we're right up there with, like I said, Boston and major cities. This is not a major city, and I'm not making the income that someone in Boston would be making. So it's an added burden to the homeowners that live in this area. So, if there's anything you can do to address that, any kind of relief would be very welcome. It would not only help me spend more money in the community, because I would have more money to spend. That's it.
I just want to comment.
Yeah.
Those different areas that you Googled, were they mandated by the state to have to build a new recreation center, water and sewer plant? Because that's where the driving costs of our increase really hit the taxpayers. Remember the taxpayer, I'm a taxpayer too. I really want to see the rates go down like we said it's going to happen, or if it's going to happen. But the water and sewer plant is a main drive for this big push. And also, I just want to comment that.
Right.
So, I mean,
I'm sure the EPA is just as
too.
guilty of making them spend money as much as they were us.
Because it's been 40 years or so that they said the water plant should have been replaced, and then when people did take office, it was hit, and then all of a sudden, not to 23,000 or 24,000, it doubled to 40-some thousand. That's where it really hurt us. So, all right, I'm just going to.
And even though Mayor Alt's not here, I think that was one of his initiatives, is to see if you can reduce either or both. So, the jury's still out on that at this point.
Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Former Mayor Joe Fasona, 38 Leeward Court, parking meters.
There he is.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening, Joe.
Good. Yeah, I know last Wednesday you talked about the parking meters, and now, as everybody says, I'm retired, and I have more things I can do and check out things and keep myself busy. So what I did on these parking meter issues was this past Sunday, I took a tour of the town. I walked the town and found out that, for example, West Main Street, you have no meters, but you have 5 businesses there, either vacant and or up for sale, okay? East Main Street, you have no meters, but you have 11 vacant stores or up for sale. But the meters begin at the courthouse, and on the other side, they begin at the Historical Society, and they go all the way down to South Street. Now, South Street, you have no meters, but there's no businesses. Bow Street, you have meters, but no businesses. Cathedral Street, you have meters, no businesses. West High Street, have meters and no businesses. Singley Avenue, meters and no businesses. The point is that you have no meters in your business district. So if you were to take out all your meters in the other areas, you're going to lose $23,000 in the budget. Not only that, understand the chief cannot enforce the 2-hour parking limit, okay? So on top of that, you also have some streets in town, including Turnquist, that has parking enforcement. Now, I'm sure, and I think the chief realizes that he's not going to have those guys come out and park their car and walk the entire development and give out parking tickets. But the thing is, in the parking tickets and the parking fines, there's a budget of $32,000. So in both areas, you tend to lose $55,000 of your budget if you do away with those parking meters and the parking enforcement. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention if you hadn't realized that, but I just thought I'd take a walk around and see how things are working. Just let you know, I think it would be a bad decision to lose all that money for the town. Thank you.
Any questions before you leave?
Well, I have a question to the chief. How many neighborhoods do we go around and enforce parking?
I can answer that for you, chief. There's 7 of them. I checked the charter.
How many have enforced permits, though?
7 streets that are special.
Well, there's permitted parking, South Street, Church Street, but that's normally done by the parking enforcement.
Right, no, I mean outside of the
We
town.
specifically go out and take enforcement action on permanent parking.
And what developments are they?
Turnquist is the only one that I'm aware of that has the permanent parking.
Well, you got Cathedral,
Yeah, Cathedral's,
High,
permanent
West High,
parking.
one side, and East Side, another side.
Right. They're
It's all-
limited
it's all-
areas.
Yes, they're areas, limited areas, right. But there's still parking.
Any questions before you exit?
Yeah, we had talked about eliminating the parking meters to drive people downtown. And there was a lot of issues that we talked about the other day as far as people at the courthouse now parking up in front, or people that work at Union Hospital. I mean, there's a lot of getting down in the weeds trying to figure out the details of everything. And actually, I'm sorry that I was unaware that there's no parking meters right down here on our business district to begin with, to remove.
But there's 2-hour enforced parking. I think
Okay.
we were discussing that as well.
All right, it was a combination then.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.
Is there anyone in the audience who has a desire to come before us before there's a motion to dismiss?
Okay.
We got some things to say, but I'll keep it to a later meeting.
Yes, sir, come. State your name, address, if you will. Thanks for coming up.
Keith Thompson from 707 Elkton Boulevard. Just wanted to address Anthony's concern about the water rates and why he's seeing differences between these larger cities and very large cities versus what we've got here in town. One of the reasons is, and the city of Newark experiences this as well, they have their own electric department, which oftentimes subsidizes their water and sewer. So that's what you see in a lot of cases involving the water and sewer rates being higher here versus these other cities. You have the electric department subsidizing the water and sewer department. So when you go to compare rates of our town versus other towns, you need to compare standalone sewer and water authorities. And I think you'll find that our rates are somewhat in line. As I mentioned the last time I was up here, one of my biggest concern is that the minimum usage number being so high at 9,000 gallons.
Right.
If you see some of these other towns involved, that minimum usage is down as low as 3,000 to 5,000 gallons. And then, the additional charges kick in after that. So that benefits all of us older folks that are on like fixed budgets that, all the kids have long gone. So I just wanted to mention that.
It's one of the things that when I was campaigning, I ran on also. And I can tell you that there's a lot of discussions going on right now of how we correct the problem. And the water treatment plant is one of them. The contract with Artesian is one of them. There's a lot of contributing factors that actually I was unaware of until now. All of a sudden, you know, it's like the Wizard of Oz. And
Oh, yeah.
the curtains
Yeah.
pull back, and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of built-in,
there is
fixed costs there.
But there's also ways that Mayor Alton and all the rest of us have looked at, and I think there's ways that we can do it.
Sure.
It's just trying to figure out the way that's sustainable, and not something that all of a sudden we give and have to take back.
Right.
And that's now that the fiscal year is over and we can crunch the numbers and stuff and see exactly where we're going to be within the next few months. I believe by October, we'll see how much money we put back in from the budget from the year before and stuff. Is that right? By October, we should have
Neighborhood of October, right?
October, November,
Right.
we should have a good grasp of
Okay.
exactly what we should be doing moving forward. But in the interim, we're not sitting on our laurels and just saying we're actually talking about different things. I know Mayor Alt had gone to a couple people to ask a couple things, and so have I, the rest of us.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons that I brought up the idea of an infrastructure audit of the town's sewer and water infrastructure, because nobody has any clue. I know I mentioned about the mapping in the older areas here in town, but the actual infrastructure itself, I go up and down our street on Elkton Boulevard, and everywhere there's a water main, there's a dip in the road, or there's construction on the road. So who knows how old this the infrastructure really is,
Absolutely right.
and how much reserves we need to be putting away in case something happens to, especially the older sections here in town.
How much? Does anybody know how much something like that would cost?
Oh, it's millions of dollars.
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, millions of, to replace anything. As far as the infrastructure
study.
audit,
The
I
audit.
have no idea, but it's probably
No,
up
the
there
audit.
pretty good. I would think the folks at KCI would be able to give you some kind of number on that. So,
All right.
okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl, you had something?
Yeah, I had a conversation with a citizen, lengthy conversation about their water bill. And it came down to, that's a person that rents property. He has 3 vacant properties, and he wanted to get his water and sewer cut off, or not sewer, water cut off. He was told by the town that he couldn't cut his water off. And I asked him to come in today. He didn't come in. Thing is, he wanted to temporarily cut it off. And I told him there's no way they would temporarily cut it off because I know it's all accounted into the water and sewer fund. The question is, okay, the question is, this person doesn't use the water, but yet if he doesn't pay his bill, the water's going to get cut off. Came up a very interesting conversation. If he doesn't pay his bill, you won't let him cut it off. They're not occupying the property. It goes on for 5-6 months. What is the person to do if he, I told him we're not in the real estate market. If everybody came into us and told us that we have to temporarily turn it off for 3 to 4 months if somebody moves out of their place, how can we help a person that cannot sell the property, use the property, and the water is not being used? Whether it's set on a 3,000, 9,200 per quarter. How can we help a citizen that cannot make income from his rental, but yet still have to pay the water bill? That makes sense what I'm asking.
The town code requires that we charge that minimum of 9,000 gallons per quarter to each address that is furnished water, regardless of what they use. If they wanted not to have a bill to pay, they'd have to remove the premise. That's what is in the town code.
Yeah, but if he,
Not just by leaving the house and saying turn on my water, so therefore they're charging. The town incurs a great deal of cost, about $7.5 million, to provide that service, regardless of what is used.
So,
Unless the physical structure is removed and there is no possible use of water, only then would it not be a water bill.
I understand that part. I understand that part. My key point is the 9,200 gallons that should be used, or 9,000 gallons that should be used or could be used, is not even being touched. The citizens made a point. I might as well just open my valve and let the water just run out in the streets because I'm paying for it anyway. The thing is, isn't there some kind of way we can charge them a service fee while the thing is not being occupied or whatever? So at least if they're not using the water, I'll be satisfied to pay half the bill instead of the full bill. The thing is,
To answer your question, can that be done? Yes. Now, the next question is how it can be done. We can amend a ordinance that provides for that to be done. In other words, you can't do it now because it's not provided in the ordinance, but the board, as a legislative body, can make a decision to do things like that. We would have to propose it, and then the board, once the board accepts it and approves it, it becomes law then. So you could do that.
And I
But we
understand
can't do
that
it now. We have to actually amend the ordinance.
right, I understand that part, and it will affect our budgets per se, but the thing is, how can we be fair to the citizen? That's the key thing here.
We're a business.
I understand
And,
that.
because we're a business, we operate as such, and one of the problems we have to consider here is that the tremendous cost to operate or furnish services. For example, our contract with Severn Trent, $124,000 a month, plus any capital or other costs, and the debt service, $1.5 million a year on debt service. All those are for our facilities. So we have to have income in order to satisfy our debt service operating costs and contractual obligations. In other words, if people opted out, then the other people who didn't opt out would have to have higher rates in order to compensate for that change. So if everybody, all 6,800 users, pay a minimum amount, at least a minimum amount, we can sustain our operational costs. So I don't know as a business how you could segregate out a particular person from that number
I
of
feel
people that
bad
are
for
required to
the, I
pay
feel
that.
bad for the ones that get their water cut off because they can't pay the bill, but the ones that can
But we
pay the
always get our
bill,
money.
that don't use the water, have to pay anyway. There's something needs to be done for that. So, anyway, I just brought that up for the record, and maybe we need to look into that because there's something that needs to be done to be able to be fair and still operate as a business. So,
Certainly, I understand.
You understand his point, I picked it up.
Yeah, and I think what
That's
he's,
what people have been complaining about for a long time.
yeah, so we'll have to look at the audit that most of the board here had already done before on the water and sewer. And if it's something where you want a lesser amount in a certain area, whether it's a service charge or something, or the lesser amount for the usage, that scale would have to change in order to be able to fund what we need to fund in the budget.
Can I say something? I think that's totally ridiculous what you're talking about. I don't drive my car 2 weeks out of the month. Should I call
Name and
my
address.
insurance?
Your name and
Excuse
address.
me?
If you want to talk,
they
please
need
submit
your-
your name and address.
They need your
My
name and
name is
address.
Bob Berner, Boerner, 21 MacArthur Lane.
Go ahead.
I don't drive my car 2 weeks out of the month. Should I call my insurance company and see if I can get a reduced insurance rate? They have to bear the cost of what that was said about the service and to even distribute the cost of all these things. So I'm really sorry that the building is vacant. Sell it.
remember, I'm speaking for the person, just for the
I
record.
understand that, but I mean, like I said, I'll send you all the emails. I'll call my insurance company tomorrow and see if I can get a reduced rate.
Well, I said we weren't in the real estate market and we can't just shut off something.
I understand.
So I explained that to
But I
him.
mean, that's, you know.
But that's a good
That's
point.
life.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Pat Opal, 137 Milestone Road. I understand, the theory behind it. I'm not using it, so why should I pay for it? But if you're talking like a rental property, say I call this guy tomorrow and Dan had shut the water off today. I want to go see that property tomorrow. When I go in there, I want to be able to play with the faucets, make sure they don't leak or anything. So now you got to have Dan come out, turn the water on, so I can go in and check out the property. I mean, to me, it could get out of hand. That's just my opinion.
It sounds like there's a lot of different issues. I'd like to see the town at some point in time go to a system where we can financially support everything and be it a pay-as-you-go. You know, if you use X amount, that's what you're paying for. I mean, that's the way it should be to begin with. How we get back to that, I'm unsure. I haven't really dissected it enough
I'm
to
one of the
see.
people that pays the minimum amount every
Sure.
3 months. Okay, it's just my husband and I. So I understand, I mean, I don't use the whole water. I don't use it all up just because I have it.
Right.
Okay, so I understand what he's saying, but to turn it off and then to have to turn it back on, now you're draining the resources of the Public Works Department.
Sure. Sure. And again, I think it's just that we all want to get back to if you use it, pay for it. If you don't, then you shouldn't pay for it. And I don't know how we get back to that scenario, but that's the game plan, I would think. Is it not?
It's sort of like an electric company. If you don't use any electricity, the bill will be a minimum bill, but it'd be a very minor bill.
Sure.
But in their rates, they build all those costs for their customers, and it's distributed over such a large number of customers, they can withstand that. However, because so many people need electricity. However, a small organization, if you had to have a generator in order to produce electricity, it would cost a lot of capital costs and operating to have that generator. And if the people opted out, the company would go in default and they wouldn't have electricity anymore. It's simple as ours. We have to have, by law, a treatment plant that meets all standards, EPA and NDE, and our treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, has to meet all those standards. So the operating cost, $124,000 a month, plus that $1.5 million a year debt for the next 20 years, that's part of us in compliance with federal and state law in order to furnish those services. So we don't have any choice to extinguish the use of those in any manner or means, and we have to stay in business. We literally have to stay in business. A good comment would be like the backup system we have with Artesian. In the event that we had a catastrophic failure of our plant, without backup, you would have many thousands of people without any resources of water at all. And we choose to have those people furnished water even at that cost, because water is the lifeblood of any community, and you take it away and you're dead. You probably go out in the West right now and people would pray to have the resources that we have.
Any other comments? Yes, sir, Bob.
I wasn't going to say anything, but a couple things.
And Charlie, I'm after him.
Bob Luxembourg, 105 Walnut Lane. Getting back to that water issue, now correct me if I'm wrong. Several meetings ago, I think that it was said that when they filled the tank, the water became contaminated and they had to refill it. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay. Who is at fault there? It's either the engineering firm that did the specs, the contractor either put the wrong paint on, or the paint was wrong. Somebody's wrong. So why should the town pay to fill that tank up the second time after it was corrected?
I asked the question.
I know, but you didn't get an answer.
I did, and I'm sorry that I didn't say it to everybody. It was built into the contract that is a common thing with doing water towers, that once you fill them back up, you have to test, and that was built into the cost. Is that right, Louis?
Yes.
But filling it up the one time, right?
Twice.
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 Okay,
Second time it went in service. The first time it's hyperchlorinated. In other words,
Right.
you're disinfectant, but they still have to test. They test for chlorine, they test for pH, and they test for volatile organic compounds, which are in the paint. Paint did meet the specifications for it. But the high VOC content of that water required us to empty it. In other words, if that contractor had filled it up and it was okay, basically we wouldn't have to refill it. But his cost covered that initial fill. Second time we filled up was at our expense. And
That's not the way it was explained to me then.
That's not the way
No,
it was
that's
explained
not-
to me.
No, that's not the way it was
That's
explained to
what
me.
I'm questioning.
All right. No, that's not the way it was explained to me.
That's not the way it was explained
How
to
else
me.
was it explained?
No, because it was actually filled 3 times then.
I don't
with,
know anything about 3 times. I know it was once and drained and back in service, because the second time we didn't have to have it tested. I don't know about it being filled 3 times.
With the town's expense, the second time, the town incurred the expense.
But the second time it was filled, it went in service.
I understand that, but you said in the original contract, it was built into the contract to fill it the one time after the work was completed.
Yes.
Okay, so you do a test, it fails the test, the water is dispersed. The town fills it, who pays for it the second time? The town pays for it, right?
The second time we fill it, it's our water then, but it was went into service.
It went into service, but still there was a reason to
The users
refill
will
it.
pay for it then?
I'm
Because
sorry?
It's being put out to service for the users.
Yes.
Yeah, the user
So-
pays for it.
In other words, if nobody uses it, it
The
stays.
users are paying for it because it's our water.
It's like that's how it's filled down.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Did the town, the second time around, pay for the water?
Yes.
I mean, we as users pay for the water.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with the contractor to do or whoever. Somebody was at fault with either the paint, putting the wrong paint on the inside of that, or the specs were wrong. Am I right? Or does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Getting back to the parking meters and so on and so forth. I brought it up several years ago to the chief. Said there was roughly 75,000, am I right, correct, Steve? 75,000 in unpaid bills. This was several years ago when I asked, and I think it was the figure you gave me.
Parking meters.
Parking fees,
Parking fee, parking ticket.
not parking meters, parking tickets, roughly 75,000 that hadn't been collected. Right. So I asked the previous chief why you couldn't put boots on those, because it seems like it's the repeat people, the same people over and over again that get the parking tickets that don't pay them, whether they be from Delaware, Pennsylvania, or what people that work downtown. He said we can't do that because we might scar a rim. I said, well, why don't you tow them away? Well, we can't do that either. Well, if you've got ordinances, you send parking tickets out to people when they're abusing your parking downtown, and most of these people work downtown. You don't have a reciprocal thing from one state to another, evidently. Why can't you put a boot on the meter or in the tire, or tow it away? When they come to retrieve that, they got to pay the outstanding ticket or they don't get their car. Is there an ordinance about that?
No, we don't have an ordinance that would authorize the police to tow a car that was in violation of a parking ticket.
Well, what if a car's sitting in a lot, in a parking meter, a designated parking area for 3 or 4 days, nobody in it? Does the town have the authority to tow it then?
48, if it's 48 hours.
48
disabled,
hours.
the town puts tourists.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's a big thing with the parking and so on and so forth, but if you've got X number of dollars out, it seems like you ought to be able to collect it one way or another, or just eliminate the whole thing together, because you're wasting the parking meter person. It just doesn't make any sense to keep him. Does that make sense?
The parking meter guy does a lot of other things, but, yeah, I mean, what's the consequences if you don't pay your...
You're not collecting the violations. Some people pay them, but, and you've probably seen the same cars that are marked all the time up and down the street, because you do get out on the street now, which the other person didn't do. But if it's the same people over and over and over again, there ought to be a way of collecting that fee from them.
Why can't we?
If they're non-reciprocal states, Delaware, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
Virginia.
no. Why can't
Florida,
we boot it?
we
Why
can't collect.
can't we boot it? Why can't we tow it? Why can't we? Other towns do.
How can we? I'll tell you how. If we pass an ordinance that would authorize the police to tow a car in violation of a parking violation, then it can be done. But you need to pass an ordinance to do that.
I think we should
You have
look
to
at
have statutory, you have to have
look in the
statutory
charter when we're
authority.
going to restart reviewing, and look at, highlight things you want to discuss and everything, and that's when we have to discuss it and make the changes.
I mean, your meter man, he goes up and down every single day. He knows the same people that he's ticketing. He knows who the cars are. So there ought to be a way of recovering some of that money.
At the back, sir. No. Joe first, and then, it's okay.
You want to go, Dave?
I just have a couple of things to say. My name's Joe Vanaski. I live at 120 Normire Avenue in Elkton, Maryland. First of all, I want to say this young man right here, Matt Donnelly, I'm so proud of him to be chief of Elkton. I see changes so far because I'm an ex-law enforcement officer myself. So Matt, gratitude to you. But now, nitty gritty. Mary Jo, you mentioned about 25 volunteers, didn't cost the town anything. I supported the 5K, totally supported it. You said there was no cost to the town. But however, let me just say this. When I came down Delaware Avenue, made a left on East Main Street, made a right on Locust Lane, all of a sudden there was a patrol car there. I had 4 cars behind me, had to turn around. All of a sudden I went down I went down Main Street, made a right on I guess it's called South Street. I was blocked in again. Okay? Then I had to turn around. Then I had to go back, went down Howard Street, couldn't get into town. I saw law enforcement officers that day, a lot of them. When you say the town didn't absorb any of these costs, there was costs there.
No, actually, they're submitting a bill to the Color Vibe organization.
Okay,
They pay for everything.
all right.
So they submitted an invoice, Steve will, to the Color Vibe organization. They're out of Utah. Public Works, anything that was extra. And they are paying for that. So there was no cost. And as far as getting into town, Matt and I met yesterday. We're going to go over to make things easier because we did realize there was it was too long of a length of time. They were closed too early. So he's going to talk to some of the officers because I had some complaints on that as well.
Yeah, we may have closed the roads a little bit earlier than we should have, and that probably caused some delay and maybe a situation you encountered.
And also too, I'm gonna say this, Jimmy the Greek owns North Street in town. Nobody can get into his business for several hours because of that. There was other businesses in town, could not get into their business, people traveling into town. I think they take a little extra step and take some consideration for other people. I also understand, you're supported many hounds, okay, very much, and I know that, okay. However, there's other businesses in town need the same support. My thought is, if I was town commissioner, and I'm looking at all your commissioners right now, if I was town commissioner, I would think about all the businesses, not just mini Hans. You're allowing these grants come in for them, and I love Dennis, I love Ingrid, don't get me wrong. But however, if I had a choice of being a town commissioner, I'd do away with the Lions and say you guys be on your own identity, away from the town, because you're being supported by the town. You haven't done anything for this town. And you take credit that you've done things for this town. And I've heard that. You haven't. And that's my viewpoint. Van Rieden, I think you draw up some good questions tonight. I think you're going to be a good town commissioner. And I think there's some things, direction needs to change. Givens and Piner, you guys need to change. If you're going to be continually for the next 2 years, you need to change your focus. I think it should be a lot better for the town. Bottom line is what's good for the people of Elkton. Thank you.
It was a great comment, but I will stand up and say I've been in Elkton for 57 years, and those were great comments you made. I don't change my approach for any one person or thing. I've lived Elkton, breathed Elkton, and one thing about me, about the heart of Elkton, I've got more family members probably in the town of Elkton than almost anybody in this room. My pride and my heart goes into Elkton. My opinion doesn't change because a new board member. I'm all focused for Elkton. When I speak for a business, Mr. Jimmy knows I speak for his business whenever somebody brings something up. It's not just for the new business that just opened. I talk about business in town, downtown, and I'm not a part of Elkton Lines, but I do support a lot of stuff that they do. One comment I will say, we talked about this, and I think DJ or Commissioner DJ has looked into this. Some of the things that people do not realize that Elkton Alliance handles with the $50,000 that the town of Elkton does give to them. If you look at the support and the people that they have running this, most of the people are volunteer. If we gave $50,000, if they told me to run it, that $50,000 will be used up in 2 weeks because I'm not doing anything volunteer for somebody that doesn't have any money coming into my pocket. Volunteers are the ones supporting Elkton Alliance. I have to say that. Joe, no disrespect what you say because you had good comments. But I have to say that. We keep saying we want to help economic development. And I listen to all the people that ran for office and their comments. We got to do more for economic development. We got to do this. We've got to get more money. And when the people do, and no disrespect for DJ because that's not directed to him. Right. When the people run for office, they promise everything. As long as I've served the board, I don't make promises. I try to keep whatever is in my heart to do it what's right. That's what I do. And whether I serve another 2, 4 years, whatever, that's to be determined. All I know is if someone does come in here and take my place, I hope they have as much passion as I have to do what I do for people day in and day out. So that's my comment on that.
Well, thank you, Earl.
I would like to say one thing. I see you almost on a daily basis now.
Okay.
If you are more than welcome to come into the Alliance office and I will share with you, pull the file of every business that has been helped, whether through grant money, loan money that I've gotten them through the state, or the Alliance has gotten them. I will share that entire folder with you, or with anyone, because it's not just one business we have helped. We have helped every single business on that street. And I will speak up to that.
Well, I appreciate both of your comments. However, you know, first of all, Earl, I'm going to say this. You're talking about the rec center. There's enough for these kids today. We need to focus more in town. And also, Mary Jo, we need to focus more in town to build things in town. Your ex-mayor was sitting up here just a little while ago talking about how many vacancies of buildings in town with the parking meters. Your focus right now should be is to develop the town back. I can remember when I moved here in 1978, this town was thriving. Now it's not. It's not thriving. It's sad. And you hear from so many different people don't want to go into Elkton. I understand the county administration building moved out to, what's it called? Some boulevard out there. I understand that. But I think the first focus should be is the development, economic development in town. I think Alda has the right approach when he's talking about that, where maybe waive some fees or whatever to try to bring some businesses in town. But I think that's where his focus should be first. There's plenty of things for these kids to do. There's a lot of opportunities for them between the schools, the YMCA, the Cease Community College. I teach baseball. They can come to me. I mean, all kind of things, softball. But I understand where you're trying to go with this with the recreation center. But however, for right now, focus in downtown. I think
you said there's plenty of things for people to do. The kids, not just the kids, the seniors. Number one, you said the schools. Schools are closed. They went to a 4-day work week, 10-hour work week. Programs that are already set up for this summer through the schools, they can't run them the full week now. Somebody's got to find another day of babysitting because the school's closed. I'm just letting you know. You said there's plenty of things for kids to do. That's why the kids are running around the streets now and nothing to do, getting in trouble. They don't have no place to go. And when you say that, I would love to see the first building you tell me that the kids can go to tomorrow, especially if it rains. Can you tell me one?
No, but let me ask you this.
That's my point.
I'll throw a question back at you. You put a building, okay, up, and kids go there. Do you think they're going to stay out of trouble?
Well, I can't answer whether I can stay in trouble, because if there's trouble with kids or students around, someone should be guiding and helping them.
Because bottom line is this. And I'm going to leave it at the last point. You put a recreation center up, okay? The kids go there. Now you're talking about cost. Someone's going to maintain that, okay? The other thing is, too, is how are you going to manage those kids when they're out of that recreation center? You don't.
I'm not the parents. The parents should be taking care of that.
Well, we have fields, we have basketball courts, we have all kinds of things around here. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
I want to say thank you, commissioners, and Matt, congratulations.
There is.
There was, yeah.
There's one other guy. No, he had one yet.
That's all right. Take one if you want.
That guy's
David Clark, 417 Buttonwood Road. I have one comment on the parking meters as well. Is there a way to track the amount each meter takes in when it's collected? Are more meters busier than others, so to speak?
You have to hand count it and track it as he empties the meters.
Because I'm sure the ones in front of the courthouse don't make any money because they're filled with full police cars usually. And I'm sure they're not dropping quarters in the meter. And also, I was wondering when DPW was going to get to the sediment ponds in the neighborhoods, because the one next to my house is above the fence now with the grass and the clippings. And they only do it once a year, but it's going to needs to be done before the snakes start coming into the yard.
Dan, you have an answer for that?
We will address it. I have it on the list. We will address it.
They're always on the list. That's the problem.
Thank you, sir.
When was it done last year, sir? About the same time frame?
Probably. They only come out once a year to do it.
Is that what we're required to do, or is that what we have to do, is once a year?
I don't know.
See Dan about that, see how often they do that. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Just one last comment. Do I have to give my address again and name? No? All right, fine. The issue revolves around the unpaid traffic tickets. There's a lot of communities in this country that do a few things. Everything can be handled electronically. The unpaid tickets have the tag number and the state of the car. If you own a car and you do not pay your automobile insurance in Maryland, they're coming after you, and they come after you hard. You could look into the possibility of revoking their insurance due to unpaid traffic tickets. I don't know legally if you can do that. The other thing is, you could possibly see what Maryland can do concerning the person's driver's license. And then the last idea, and this is mine, take the top 100 scofflaws, or whatever the hell you call them, and assign a police officer on their way in the morning or on their way home using the car. You drive down my street, and if I'm a scofflaw, and he drives up in my driveway, flips those lights on, and goes knocks on your door and says, "You got some unpaid traffic." Guess what? I'll bet you get 80 of those 100 people to pay you. So it's just a couple ideas.
There's a motion to dismiss.
So moved.
Second. Second. Meeting is closed at 8:25 p.m. Thanks.